Welcome to Black and Gold Digital Edition, a behind-the-scenes look at your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hi, and welcome to Week 16 of our digital show. I'm Jay Puskar alongside Mike Fenner and Kent Urbanski. And Kent, is it time to push the panic button? The Steelers have lost 3 in a row, and of course, the stunner in Cincinnati losing 27-17.
Well, yeah, I think it's time to push it, and it should have been pushed maybe a month ago, I think. So, the game in Cincinnati was a tale of two teams, one that had absolutely nothing to lose and another team that's trying to find their identity late in December, and that's what you get. But the bottom line is the Steelers' offense just is not getting the job done. You know, you can't go into somebody else's stadium and turn the ball over 3 times, expect to win, and in the first 7 of 8 possessions were 3 and out. So that's not gonna cut it.
Mike, so many questions have been asked by the media to head coach Mike Tomlin and even the players as far as what's the problem and what are the answers, and it just seems like they don't have any answers right now over the last month.
Well, I'm trying to find some answers. I got my hair cut. I'm trying to change up the jinxes around here. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Yeah, they're trying to find a lot of answers right now between the injuries, the inconsistent play, between the balance on offense, the defense now starting to have some issues that really haven't crept up for a while. There are a lot of questions out there right now, but the one thing I find interesting too is that now all the talk of Juju Smith-Schuster dancing on the logos is starting to get more play. And he's like, hey, I've done this when we were 11-0, all 11 games. I've done this during the 3-game losing streak. It's nothing personal. It's nothing meant to be disrespectful. But now, as Cam Hayward says, it's because we're losing. That's why everyone wants to talk about it, right? So interesting side story there is, people are trying to get into this locker room and create those distractions and bring up those headlines. And it's a team right now that needs to win a football game.
Yeah, they have more problems than that, I think.
Yeah. Ken,
true.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, the first half of the season, we were talking about how great Ben was looking coming off the elbow surgery, the wide receivers that were stepping up on a weekly basis. It was always someone different. It was James Washington, Deontay Johnson, it was Chase Claypool, or even Juju Smith-Schuster. And now all of a sudden, those guys have disappeared. I mean, what has happened with this offense? Because they've gone from being world beaters to now they just can't move the ball down the field.
Anemic. You know, I mean, it's crazy that just a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Ben, possibly being an MVP candidate, and then we're starting to feel sorry for him because he's putting the ball on the money and receivers are dropping passes. And now they're blaming everything on him because, a game that he just looked probably the worst half of football that I've ever seen him play, and now all the attention's turned to him. So, but I think it's more than Ben. The offensive line, they're not getting the job done. Villanueva was just getting blown up on every play. Ben had no chance, to hold on to that ball for an extra second or so so those receivers could come open. And they can't run the ball. They did a little better with Benny Snell in Cincinnati, but they're in a game that should have been the makeup game for them to get good, to get right, is now, I think, this weekend against the Colts. And if they want to take the pressure off, get the monkey off their back, then they got to beat the Colts this weekend.
And Mike, the spine of this team has been the defense the last 2 years, and it just seems like it's starting to weaken a little bit, not only with the injuries, but the number of snaps that these guys have had to play because they just can't get off the field, and they're allowing these teams to finish drives and get points on the scoreboard.
Yeah, that was a big reason that Cincinnati was able to put up 152 rushing yards, and that's a reason that they were able to stay on the field with that Pittsburgh defense, tire them out, wear them down, and that's what you see, and that's why you see Ryan Finley run for a touchdown late in the game because they were tired, they were gassed, and the depth is a concern, obviously at certain spots, and it's a team that has to find a way, any way possible, to win a football game this week. Stop the bleeding, stop the 3-game losing streak, and we talk about it all the time, but it's never as bad or never as good as you think it is. Even with the 11-0 start, we always talked about there are issues that are going to come up. There are issues that we could see, and there are games that could have gone either way. Maybe it wasn't as good as 11-0 sounds on paper. And even though 3-game losing streak sounds terrible right now, they still have a lot in front of them here to. They're in the playoffs, of course. They can win the AFC North. All they have to do is win this game this week against the Colts, and they're in. Or even if Cleveland were to lose, and God forbid the Jets win 2 games in a row, but there's still plenty out there, and it's not as bad as it seems, even though it seems pretty bad right now.
And Ken, how scary is it the fact that, their last 2 games of the season, they're coming up against teams that have double-digit wins and destined for the playoffs. I mean, these last 2 games are not going to be easy, and the Colts are playing for a division championship. They'd like to try to get home field for the first round as well. So there are some teams out there in the last 2 weeks that have a lot riding on their seasons as well.
Yeah, and the Colts are coming into Pittsburgh. They're a very consistent team. Phillip Rivers playing very well. They're running the ball well. T.Y. Hilton is now averaging plus 80 yards a game. I mean, it's going to be a tough team for them to beat, but I think, three losses in a row for Pittsburgh, and Ben, maybe he needs to get a little of that saltiness back to him and go out there and prove that, he's still the boss at 38 years old and can lead this team, into the playoffs with splitting one of these wins. Even if it's not against Cleveland, who wants Pittsburgh bad? They want that division. So Pittsburgh's going to have to step up and play their A game to win this next game against the Colts. There's no choice.
Mike, how critical is it for them to be physical? Because, I mean, that's been missing too the last 2 or 3 weeks, as a lot of the media members have addressed that to Mike Tomlin. It just seems like the opposing team has really pushed their will on the black and gold.
Yeah, this offensive line, this is going to be a huge challenge going up against DeForest Buckner up front. The huge pickup from San Francisco in the offseason. Darius Leonard's having an unbelievable season at linebacker, and they've got some dudes in that front 7. This offensive line is going to have a huge challenge, and I think that's going to be the biggest question mark is how do they step up, how do they perform, and it's going to come down to the trenches, I think, because the Colts' rush defense is incredible, and they can run the ball too. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, Naheem Hines has come on. They've got guys in the backfield that can run it. Everyone talks about Phillip Rivers in the passing game and almost 3,800 yards this year, even though he's in the shadows of his career as well. But this is a physical team that likes to run the ball, stop the run, and Frank Reich's an aggressive play caller, head coach, and they'll go for it on 4th and short. They'll go for it on 4th and 3 in a spot you would never expect them to, but they're an aggressive team, and watch out for Jacoby Brissett, the backup quarterback, who's an athlete. He's a big guy that they'll run out there and sneak the ball with, and they're not afraid to use him. They've got plenty of packages set up for him, so a lot of options to look out for.
Kent, what's the matchup key for you going into this contest against the Colts?
Time of possession, I think. You got to establish that run game so Ben doesn't have to feel like he has to do everything for this team. So if they can, I know Mike just talked about the defensive line for the Colts and how good they are at stopping the run, but they're gonna have to try to stay with that and get somebody in there. I don't know whether Connor's playing or not as of the taping of the show, but they're going to have to get somebody in there that's going to rush 80 to 100 yards in this game to loosen it up so that they can get some passes downfield. And if they can do that, I think with a home game, no fans still, but with a home game, it still means something. I think they can win this game.
Mike, what about you?
Well, first of all, even though a lot of the names are different and Phillip Rivers hasn't faced the Steelers as a member of the Colts, Pittsburgh's won the last 6 meetings in this series. I know there's a lot of different names and a lot of turnover, but Indianapolis hasn't won in this game since 2008. They don't play every year, of course, but they do play more often than you'd think because these 2 teams are usually at the top of the pecking order in their respective divisions. So it could be a mindset thing too, where this Indianapolis team, even though they're 10-4, they're still in contention for the AFC South Division Championship. It's a team that might have that little mental hurdle where it's like, we just can't beat this team. So Pittsburgh actually might have a little bit more of a mental edge than they realize, even though things are kind of doom and gloom right now. I
think they need to be the desperate team here. Pittsburgh got too comfortable at 11-0. I think they need to go back and be that desperate team and figure some things out there, especially that linebacker core that, they need to get that figured out and make some stops, get off the field.
Vince Williams back off the reserve COVID-19 list. That'll be huge.
I mean, you got a guy 200 pounds in there right now and playing linebacker, and and teams know that they're going to run right at that, when they know they can't stop it.
My favorite player on the Colts is probably Rodrigo Blankenship, the kicker with the rec specs out of Georgia. That guy is outstanding. You can't not cheer for that guy. I'm just going to put it out there. I give credit to
Phillip Rivers, too. He's playing phenomenally. His passer rating is incredible in the last 8 games. So he's a competitor, and I like this matchup between the 2 old guys.
All right, guys, as always, thanks for your insight. So for Kent Urbanski, Mike Fenner, I'm Jay Puskar. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you in Week 17 as the Steelers will get ready for the Cleveland Browns. We'll see you later.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for Black and Gold Digital Edition.